Welcome to the show, everyone. I'm JJ Flizanes, your empowerment strategist and producer. Thank you for downloading today's show. Today, we're going to talk about Flowdreaming, and I can't wait to introduce you to Summer McStravick. We had an awesome conversation, and there's going to be a lot of value and next level vibrational frequency manifestation stuff. I can't wait to share it with you. Before we get to that, though, if you're getting today's episode on the day it's released, which is October 24th, tonight is What Blocks Your Brilliance. I'm doing a free training tonight at 5 p.m. Pacific time, 8 p.m. Eastern time. And it's about a new way to unlock your genius. I cannot wait to share this with you. It's a new training that I'm doing. And it's exciting because I have so many things that are going to blow you away and things that are easy and new for you potentially. So I hope you're going to be coming live. I've got a free gift for you, something that's also in the manifestation area, something that I've never given before. I've offered access to, but this time you're going to get it to keep it for good. And it's in a new form, much easier to use, and I can't wait to share it with you. But that's only if you come live. 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern. It's about 90 minutes. There will be a replay, so if you can't make it live, I totally understand. I invite you to sign up anyway if you want to hear it and you want to get this training and this learning and these opportunities. So you can go to jjflizanes.com/brilliance. It's also in the show notes, jjflizanes.com/brilliance. I can't wait to see you tonight. All right. And of course, if you come live, you get to ask questions and interact. You can come on and talk. So that would be really fun to meet you if I don't know you and to hear from you if I do. So today's show is me interviewing Summer McStravick. She's a personal growth coach, an author, a podcaster, and creator of Flowdreaming, a mind-body technique for manifesting and growing inner emotional strength. Her books and podcasts have been used worldwide to transform people's inner emotional landscapes as well as their external lives. Her latest book is called Stuff Nobody Taught You, 40 Lessons from Me School to help you stop being miserable and start feeling amazing. Find her at flowdreaming.com or through her podcast, Flowdreaming. Enjoy the show. Welcome to the show, Summer.
Thank you, JJ. Happy to be here.
So I first want to know, I'm just so curious about your story and how you got into, you've been podcasting for 19 years, which is crazy because I thought I'm at 9 years and I'm feeling like a champ because I know so many people that, just started or they start and they stop. And 9 years feels like, feels like it's been a long time. At the same time, I'm like just getting started. So I'd love to hear your story. Go back before 19 years and let's bring us to podcasting.
2005, I believe we're going back to. So my story is kind of strange and it makes me feel old now to like even say it. I mean, look at me. I'm not that old, right? I can't be, but apparently I am. 2005, I worked for a major publishing corporation. They're called Hay House, founded by Louise Hay. She was my boss, and Reed Tracy, of course, who now runs it. And I began there working in their design department. Eventually, they put together an audio department. It was, believe me, we are so scrolling back here. Everything was still on cassette tapes at that time in the world, slowly moving on to CDs and DVDs, a fancy new thing. So the company had to kind of take all of their recording technology and move it to, the next step. So they tapped me to run that division of the company, anything audio, which soon began to encompass anything that was audio on the websites. That meant anything streaming. That meant I built Hay House Radio. I put on one of the very first webinars. We did it with Sylvia Brown, the psychic, and had no idea what we were doing. There were no models to follow. I mean, just so few. I remember crashing the entire phone system for Hay House. Nobody could get through on customer service. It was a disaster because so many people called in. We did not know how to do a proper webinar back then. Anyway, that's when I began podcasting. I started my own show, and I produced shows for like dozens of other incredible people like Marianne Williamson, of course, Louise herself, Dr. Wayne Dyer, He and I were co-hosts for quite a few many years on a program we did together. So that's my origin story. I fell in love with audio and never looked back. And so podcasting was a bug that bit me, and it stayed inside me. It's just such a beautiful way to be inside someone's headspace, let them get to know you. And you know how when you listen to a podcast, you start to feel like this person is a friend and I know them and I want to see what they're going to say tomorrow. That's what I realized was happening. And to do that, you've got to be really exposed and vulnerable, because otherwise you can't make an interesting show if you're not giving anybody something real about yourself. So that's the origin. And I have 2 decades now of this show of mine, Flowdreaming, still kind of woo-woo. And literally it's like watching baby Summer grow up. I sound naive and I sound silly and I sound all the ways you sound when you're young, and then I get older and then some horrible things happen to me and you hear me go through those times. Yeah, it's a fun journey to go on. And it's all, of course, about manifesting and intuition and flow. So there you go.
Awesome. And let's talk about Flowdreaming and how that came to be in terms of you were working for Hay House. So again, you're around all the people and you're around all the things. And so were you that way before you worked with Hay House, or did you sort of, because of Wayne Dyer and all the different content that Hay House produces, were you influenced by that too?
I'll tell you, again, I'm kind of an outlier. I did everything I could to run the hell away from anything woo-woo for a long time. I was I have been born into a family of intuitives, seekers. I'm the oldest daughter of the oldest daughter of the oldest daughter of the oldest daughter, and we keep tracing it back. And gosh, all the way back to my great grandmother, they've been doing interesting things, doing astrology in the middle of the plains during the Dust Bowl. So here I am. And I'm saying to my mom when I'm growing up, I'm not going to be like this. I don't want to be that way. I'm going to go to college and I am going to go into publishing and writing, and I am not going to do any of that. Well, this is how things work out, right? When you have a destiny, or when you have, I hesitate to use the word destiny because I do believe that we create ourselves in every moment. But when you have universal expectations for you, let's put it that way, you seem to get corralled back into where you're supposed to go no matter what. And that's how, of course, the first publishing job I landed was with Hay House. And that is where Flowdreaming was, I wouldn't say born, but it's where I started to realize that a practice that I had been doing for many, many years myself, privately, personally, not wanting to ever share, people wanted to do it. And I used to take my coworkers into the back area of the building, the warehouse. And you know how people buy lottery cards, as a group workplace? Yeah. Well, people we would all pool our cards, and then they'd say, Summer, can you do that manifesting thing? I'm like, yeah, let's go. Let's do it. So I brought them into what I eventually termed Flowdreaming. And it's a technique, it's a practice, it's actually a philosophy as well. Or it's evolved into that the more that I've learned. It's sort of been teaching me over the last couple of decades what it is. We never won the lottery, but I won the lottery because I ended up being able to share this technique with the world, write books about it, create my own company around it. I mean, hundreds of thousands of people have been impacted by it, tried it, still do it. So it's been pretty amazing how that got started. But yes, that's where it came from, or not where it came from, but that's when it began. So I should probably tell you what it actually is, huh?
Well, that was going to be my next question. Let's go into, can we explain it or share it with everybody?
I know, I'm just teasing, like, what the heck is she talking about, this Flowdreaming thing? So when I was younger, I had little kids, babies. I'd have to get up at 4 or 5 in the morning. My work started at 7. I had to drive there early. Didn't get home till 6. And Louise was always saying, state the positive, do your affirmations. And Abraham Hicks, they would say, you've got to get into the vortex. You've got to get into the state. And I remember just thinking, I am so tired, you guys. There is no way that I can constantly monitor my thoughts and my thinking. There's got to be something I can do. And they'd say, then meditate. I'd say, do you know how impossible it is for me to meditate? Every time I go in, I come out feeling like a total loser. I cannot quiet my mind. There is always, the dog has to go to the vet. The kids are choking on Cheerios. I can't do that either. What do you have for me? And flow dreaming is sort of what came into my existence. And it's not meditation. It's not subconscious work or self-hypnosis. It's not creative visualization, although it feels tingly a little bit like all of those. It's really stupidly simple. You take three things. You take daydreaming, which I call guided daydreaming, sort of like an analog to lucid dreaming, nighttime dreaming. You take awareness of flow state or flow energy. And you probably know the psychologist, Dr. Csikszentmihalyi, who invented or discovered or coined the term. And then finally, you take deep, unrelenting, gorgeous emotion. You marry these three things together into a technique, doing all of them at the same time. And it's sort of like when Dr. Mihai started talking about flow going way back now, right? He applied it, as all good logical psychologists will do. He applied it to things that were physical, the flow of a good golf game, the flow of a scientific breakthrough, right? Being in that optimal, optimized, everything is, no hold back, no resistance state. I said, what if I take that concept, but I actually apply it to the land of woo-woo, of spirituality? What if I apply it to manifesting? What if there is a state of absolute no resistance? What if there is a state of forward momentum and motion where everything comes together precisely and beautifully? What if there is a place where there is no lack? What if it is everything is there? I'm in the center of everything. That would be a flow space for me. And it has a sense of movement, right? It's the arrow of time, as a physicist would say. Well, the flow moves forward. We move forward. Everything is moving forward into growth, evolution, expansion. Our universe is expanding. Our world is continuously evolving. We as humans, as spiritual seekers, what's our number one top thing we want to do? We want to grow. We want to get better, be better. Everything has this positive forward momentum. I said, what if our lives have that? What if not only our lives as a whole lifespan, but what if everyone's lives? What if things coming together, businesses and societies and cultures, what if they all have a collective flow? What if the planet has its own flow and it's also moving into its next layer or level of existence? What if the universes have their own direction? I said, that's where I want to go. I want to feel that state because I feel like it exists. I know I'm really going on. Do you want to break in?
No. You're
started.
Fine. No, well, first of all, I believe, is your birthday this month? Are you Virgo?
How did you guess, my darling? Do I speak Virgo language?
No, you have it on your site. On your show, on your most recent show, I heard you say it's birthday month for me. And I'm like, well, it looks like it's September. So she's probably a Virgo.
I thought I had to tell or something. You're like, yeah, no. That was so Virgo of you.
Not yet. No. In fact, the thoroughness of your technique and philosophy, so to speak, and sort of the understanding and the application. And, there's a lot of structure that you kind of have created that involves all these different elements that exist separately, but that you saw a need to put together in order for it to be more effective. And so I'm just curious because you happen to know your moon by chance? Your moon sign?
Of course. Aquarius.
Okay. All right. So here's the combo. Here's the combo of the fun structure plus the emotional, like the big picture.
Can you see why the two parts of me ward? The Aquarius moon's like, oh, you are so woo-woo. Virgo me is like, do I have to be?
Right. Yeah. The Virgo moon's like, but people won't accept me if I'm woo-woo. They'll think that I'm crazy. They won't listen to me. They won't think I'm smart. And the Aquarian's like, who cares? You have gold that you're creating for the world. And who cares? The smarter people who are on the same plane will be the ones that find you and will be the ones that do the work. And so I'm just curious as to when you created this, most of us create. I have an Aquarius Mercury and an Aquarius Mars, and a lot of us create from our own situations and our own needs, right? So like you said, you were being told to meditate. You're like, oh, I can't do that. Or, hey, say your positive affirmations. You're like, oh my gosh, it's so much work to do all these things. And how do I streamline it into something that's going to work more effectively for me? So I'm just curious as to what the contrast was that created this in your own life or your business or your world.
I'm not sure exactly what you mean by contrast, except I knew that I needed something that would allow me to shape my life, to manifest. I became absolutely possessed with understanding, like you. I became possessed with quantum physics, with holist physicism. I did interviews with Dr. Dean Radin, of course, Greg Braden, Bruce Lipton, so many interesting people. Actually, that formed the basis of my first book called Flowdreaming. It was me trying to understand, I'm doing something, it feels very effective, my life is changing as a result. Why? Like, how is this working? And so I put it all down when I wrote that book. But yeah, okay, so to go back, eventually, yeah, I embraced all of this side of me when I realized that what I was doing was valuable to not just me. And there's kind of an interesting story around that. Maybe I'll save it for later. But I think the synthesis is what you're referring to, right? Like, how did
Well, no,
these parts suddenly come together?
no, more of, okay, so when you and I, for those of you that don't know yet, I was also interviewed by Summer, and I'm on her show. So if you're hearing this right now, I'm probably on her show as we speak in the same week, airing these shows together. And when you interviewed me, we didn't talk about my necessarily origin story of how I got to know or learn or experience all the things that I'm teaching now. And it's because of my marriage. I started my podcast to save my marriage. And before my podcast, I had learned law of attraction to make money. I was starting a business. I was driving all around Southern California, up and down all the time. And I was literally living in survival mode, trying to figure out how to make money and how to have a business and how to be successful. And so law of attraction came into my lap and changed my life on all levels when I heard Esther and Abraham say, you're the creator of your own reality. And it was like, okay, game on. Like, that was 2002. And I thought, well, geez, if I don't like something about my life, that means I get to change it. Well, that is the best news ever. I love that. And so for me, that was kind of how and why I was even interested in learning about law of attraction and manifestation. And then later, all these healing tools and modalities that we've talked about, that people on my show know about, it's because I was trying to save my marriage. So for you, when you were working at Hay House and you were doing the radio division and you were learning about manifestation, like, what did you want?
Oh, okay. Well, it predates Hay House, 100%. And it's actually, okay, it's a good story. So it was 2001. I was still in college, putting myself through, working all day long and working all night long. And I decided to start a literary magazine with my husband. I know this sounds way off topic, but remember, I was like going into publishing. I wasn't going to devote my life to this kind of stuff. And we had this fabulous literary magazine, kind of like one of those free newspapers that you can pick up at the coffee shop, whatever. It listed every author coming in town, every library kid book reading. We interviewed lots of famous and wonderful people. And my husband and I, completely financially supporting it on our own. And we just had the power of faith, like, if we put it out there, it will succeed. But we didn't know anything. We're young and college kids. We didn't know anything about advertising, sales, etc. And this is also when ads were moving onto the internet and not as many people were investing in print. So I was starting to really despair. I'm like, I was losing money. In fact, I lost in the end about $30,000 on that back then. All money I had earned, nothing anyone had given me or invested in this. And I was at a desperate point, and I was talking with my mom actually on the phone one day. And I said, Mom, you've got to help me save this magazine. I mean, this is what I want to do in my life. And I said, can we manifest this? Can we law of attract it? Can we, and she started dragging me to Jerry and Esther Hicks back in 1989. I remember seeing them when they couldn't even afford a hotel room. We had to sit in a hotel courtyard. And then they sold their cassette tapes with like hand, when you used a real typewriter to like type the name on them. Anyway, so we get on the phone together, and she says, okay, we'll manifest together every day. It's like I'm your diet buddy. Like we're going to do this. And there was a day when she and I both realized we were doing something that felt very strange and different. And she says, do you see what I see? Do you feel what I feel? Do you know where we are? And that's when I started to realize we are somewhere outside. It felt like literally outside of space and time. I forgot I was in my body. I left awareness of like space around me. Time went by. Eventually we realized this is kind of a flow space. And That's what I meant when I said earlier, if you take this flow idea and marry it to spirituality, you understand that you can be in a state of flow, which is actually like, for me, it's an open conduit. It's where I kind of take the lowest dense energy of my physicality and I sync it all the way up at the highest, ringing bells of my basic data nature. So we go into this space and we're like, what do we do here? And I said, let's feel things. And so we'd feel things. My magazine is successful. I am so incredibly, I'm so fulfilled by what I do. And eventually it started to evolve. And I realized I was asking for things like, I'm financially safe. I am absolutely fulfilled in every way. I find my life's calling. And I'm constantly being put on the right track. I'm constantly being supported. And, that actually became a sort of tenet of Flowdreaming down the road, later years. And I realized why after doing that intensive, Flowdreaming is what it, ended up being called. Why after doing that did I actually have to fold the magazine? I mean, I had to quit and walk away with that big loss. Well, it happened because I actually sent a letter in 2001 to Hay House saying, do you need a graphic designer? Because I could help. I never called. I never followed up. I didn't even look to see if they had any job openings. I just sent an actual letter and then forgot about it. And they called me and they said, we want you. And then they said, we want to hire you to be our employee. I said, no, I only work freelance. And they said, really? And so they worked freelance with me. And eventually they said, we need to hire you. And I said, you know what? I'll let you hire me. Can you believe how I was? I can't even believe. Oh, and
oh, I can.
I said, okay.
I'm very similar, but continue.
Think about yourself in your late 20s, right?
Oh yeah, I was saying shit like that. Don't worry.
I can't believe I'd ever say that like to a place like them right now. But well, I would, of course. I'd just be like, no, I've got my own company. But back then I said, tell you what, hire me, but I reserve the right to quit and go back to freelancing in a month if it doesn't work out. Okay. They said, okay, which is crazy. So this is how Flowdreaming really came to be. And I realized that life was not putting me on the thing I wanted, the magazine, because it knew it wasn't going to get me to, well, I'm using your words. You've influenced me, the thing I need. And what I was needing was what I was emoting to the universe, what I was emoting. I am safe. I am in my path. I am in a space where I can grow into the fullness of myself. Everything I was putting out was what I call today an emotional endpoint. That is the only thing I manifest at this point in my life. All the other things fall in place if you're going after those emotional endpoints. Figure out what those are. Life starts to swirl and change around you.
Perfect.
So,
I love that.
There you go.
Emotional endpoint is a great word. I love that because it is. So my quote that I like to say, and it's from Abraham, and I make people write it down. I say, you remember this, repeat this, write this down, put on a Post-it note everywhere you go. The only reason why you want what you want is because you think you'll feel better when you have it. That is basically another way to say emotional endpoint, because at the end of the day, the magazine, the relationship, the job, the money, the car, you just want the feeling. You're just going for the feeling. It doesn't matter how you get there. It does matter, but it doesn't matter, right? Like, we're not looking for this thing that we want because we actually want the thing that we want. We want the feeling that we think comes along with the thing that we want. So emotional endpoint just sort of gets you to that faster when you're activating the emotion, which is, again, the basis of law of attraction. You can't have the thing that you want until you're in alignment with its frequency. So get to the emotion. And by the time you get there, you don't even need the thing. You don't even want the thing because you weren't going for the thing anyway, right?
Exactly. And that's how it plays into manifesting for me. If I'm going for an emotional endpoint, a couple of different things are happening. One, I'm in flow state, right? I've daydreamed my way in. Again, it's 3 pillars: daydreaming, flow, and emotion. I've daydreamed my way in, and I'm talking in what I consider the prime language of the universe. It's the only language that every living thing in the entire planet speaks and understands. If I go to Paris and I feel sad, somebody's going to know that I am sad. If I am looking in my cat's or dog's eyes, I can feel if they're in pain, if they're joyful. Feeling is the spoken language that encompasses 1,000 words, right? Love, feel love and then try and describe it, you could write pages, and they write whole novels experiencing it. So we speak in that language. That is the language of flow. So when we talk about this emotional endpoint, what we're also saying is, tell you what, universe, I'm going to create what I call a blueprint, an energetic blueprint. So most people focus in their life on action, action, action. Do the thing, get the thing, feel the certain way as a result. It's what we're taught from day one. It's a very physical, survival-oriented way of living. It works, but it's half the picture. The other half is what I call the non-physical action, which I also call pre-action. You've got action and pre-action. Pre-action is, again, this emotional endpoint. How do I want my life to make me feel? Well, I better tell life and show it to it. So I'm going to go in and practice these emotional states of being. I'm going to go in right now and I feel, let's say, a lot of people have financial struggles. Okay. So going back to my magazine, I was desperate. I feel that I am fully supported by life. I feel that all of my needs are met. I feel an overflow. I have all the tools, all the resources, everything I need to take myself to the next level of my being, to explore, to help, to create, to build. I have all of that. And I'm describing it in words, but what I'm trying to describe is an actual feeling state. And I feel that. And I have no reason to feel that. Nothing maybe around my life has given me that, especially when I'm going in a new direction. Life has not shown up with any rationale for me to feel that way whatsoever. But I'm telling life, this is your blueprint. I want you to create based on this. And it won't know what we want unless we tell it through creating these feeling style blueprints inside of ourselves. So when I go in Flow Dream, that's the way that I manifest. I create it. And as you know from obviously quantum physics, when you are actually feeling something, it becomes embedded in you. Once information is known, it is never unknown. Once information is created, it can be accessed even at a spooky distance, right? It becomes part of not just your own being, but the universe, and it carries with you, it stays with you. So if I practice this every day, it's like putting a spoonful of sugar in a little pile. After years, decades of this, my sugar is so high up in me, like half of my soul is baked with these emotions at this point. And it changes the way that I then interact with the world, and it forces the world to change how it interacts with me, if that makes sense.
Change the way you look at things, and the things you look at change.
Bingo.
Yeah. Well, it's the action of manifestation that people miss. And even my audience, like, I think they're going to really love this, because I have, again, that Sag moon sort of practical truth seeking. Like, I understand it, but then I go, oh, but maybe the way that you're explaining it, it doesn't penetrate for some people because they don't understand that. Like, again, the reason why you want what you want is because you think you'll feel better when you have it. All right. So then the question becomes, well, what do I want to feel by wanting this thing? Like you just mentioned with the money, I want to feel relief. I want to feel ease. I want to feel joy. I want to feel comfortable. I want to feel excited. I want to feel all these things, and their feelings. And most people think about their feelings instead of feel their feelings. So you're actually taking people on what is the most important part of law of attraction, is feeling your feelings. And of course, aiming for the higher vibration feelings, not necessarily just feeling all the negative feelings. They have a place for sure, and they need to be allowed out. But at the same time, when we're looking at our life or our job or our relationship and we're wanting change, we're misled to think it's in the circumstances, and that we have to change the circumstances, versus we have to change our inner frequency of that feeling state that you're going for. And then things will rearrange because of that. Like, you don't have to do so much of the Esther calls it, and Abraham calls it, efforting. You have to do less efforting when you're literally just emanate the feeling, and shit will move around for you. You don't have to do anything. I mean, you would take inspired action when guided to do so. So you just can't sit, I think people, for years, I noticed there was a wave of, oh, well, let's beat up on law of attraction because it's too simplified, and these woo-woo people are not that smart and they don't really understand it, and we need to sell them an action plan to blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, no one's saying that sit in your room on your floor every day and never do anything. It's like, and just feel good. No, it's their action is needed after you're in alignment, though. But what you're talking about is getting yourself into the place of alignment, so you even know what to do when your intuition guides you, or when opportunity presents itself and you're now in alignment with something that showed up because of that flow dreaming that you did. And all of a sudden now you take action.
Exactly.
Now you do the thing.
I always say that action and pre-action, they're brother and sister. It's walking on two legs instead of hopping on just one. Most people do action and they hop through their life. You can't run unless you're doing both. Everything in this world, basically breaks down to a dichotomy, right? There's the sun and the moon, and there's up and down, and there's forward and backwards, and there's birth and death. There's action and there's pre-action. They must be done together. And it's so true. Most of us have a reliance on one over the other because that's just how we're made. Some people only take actions. We know those people and we call them materialistic and, not spiritual. And yes, they can do really well, but they often realize I'm overworked, I'm burned out, something's missing. On the other hand, you've got the pre-action people, and they say, I can see and feel, and I know what my life looks and feels like. I know I have these dreams and I'm there. And I'm like, well, have you done anything toward it? No, it should just show up. And I'm like, you are way off in the pre-action zone. You need to get some action. Let's get the balance happening between the two. Then you can run, right? Then you can run a marathon. Here's another thing too. When you're focusing on pre-action or emotional endpoints, as we do in flow dreaming, it opens up so many more possibilities for life to align things to you. I discovered long ago that we get way too precise. We say, oh, I need this job. And if I only had $3,000 more a month, if I only had this partner, if I only could move back to this town. And we get these very precise goals, and I understand it. Like, we're humans and we have desire. The desire propels us to keep living another day, right? We have some things we need to move toward. But when instead you say things like, I want to live where I feel absolutely loved, at peace, where I have a rich, gorgeous friendship circle, where I feel a part of the place where I belong. That's what I feel. And you put that out. Then what the universe is reading, what life around you, all the events, all these flows of energy. I see flows of energy, like if everybody really is in that flowing energetic space of alignment, like moving from here to there in this arrow of time. Sometimes I see it like massive braids of light. Like you see those stop action photos of freeways at night and all the headlights seem to go on and on. Imagine if those braid together and split apart. And sometimes my flow interacts with other people's and then it splits apart and I go into other places. Well, life is already setting that up for us right now. Otherwise we'd just be hitting a wall of chaos second after second, but we're not. Things are already in motion. They're already being put together. So if I'm saying I want to feel like I live in this kind of place that gives me these feelings, life says, wow, that might be Key West, Florida. That might be Toronto. That might be San Diego. We've got a lot of options for her now. Whereas before, she just kept saying to herself, New Mexico. And it was a lot harder to get that, to thread that, needle. So the way life can respond to you magnifies, and it makes things happen much quicker. And again, less heavy lifting or efforting, as Esther might say. So that's another piece to this puzzle that I think is really, really important and why I stress so much. Go to the emotional endpoint. Oh, and there's one more thing. Can I keep going?
Yes.
Okay. When I talk about people taking actions in life, which is what we're taught to do, hit the milestones. Hit the milestone of graduating from high school, hit the milestone of your first important relationship, hit the milestone of maybe having a child, hit the milestone of your first really good career, right? And we do these things. And yet we're waiting for life always to say, okay, I did the thing. Do I get to have the feeling now? I graduated. Do I get to feel happy now? Oh, I do. Oh, someone's in love with me. Do I get to feel love now? Oh, I do. We wait for the world outside to allow us to have feelings. We are in a state of reaction 90% of the time. This happens, so I get to feel a certain way. So we go around trying to make things happen so we can get to those feelings that we want to have permission to feel. In my work in flow dreaming land, we reverse that dynamic. We say, here's how I feel. World, I challenge you to match me. So I'm giving myself permission to feel it. I'm actually feeling it. I'm being this. World, I know you haven't figured out yet how to align to that, but I know that you will. Things will shift and get in order. So this is what I call, again, the dichotomy between action and reaction. When you're in reaction mode, you are just waiting on the world to let you feel ways. And you know what? The world has no obligation to make you feel any certain way. I think I've heard you say this in our interview, JJ. I'm echoing you back now. The world has no obligation to give you any of these feelings. And then we get so mad at it when it doesn't fulfill us the way we need or want it to. But I say, you know what? How about if we do some pre-action instead of reaction? How about if we feel that and then say, world, figure it out. Open up all the channels, open up all the doors. What's easiest? What's closest? Because that's another principle of flow, right? Life should feel easy. If you are in flow, you are a bird flying on a current with the wind. If you are not in flow, if you are not in alignment, you are flying against the wind. You can be flapping your wings as hard as you want in either direction. If you flap them hard when you're flowing, you're going so much further. It's an exertion that is wondrous. But if you're flapping against the flow, you are getting nowhere. You are barely holding still. You are exhausted. Same effort. So you're recognizing life can give this to me in a state of ease. I can feel ease. Is what I'm doing right now feeling ease? That's a question I ask my students all the time. I have a bunch of programs. Gosh, I've even forgotten to mention that. How terrible am I? I have a lot of programs. If you guys are curious, as well as a podcast, Flowdreaming, still kind of woo-woo. But you should check it out, flowdreaming.com. I have all of the flow dreams recorded on all different topics for you guys. But one of them is basically, in fact, I have a course called Everything is Easy and a flow dream called Everything is Easy. I want to go into this blueprint of this creation, and I want to be surrounded by ease and flow. I want to enter a state of no resistance, which means there is no lack. Everything is here. I'm not encountering any resistance. Think about, again, the bird going against the wind. That's resistance. So everything I seek to do is to find find the things that are happening and working for me where there are no resistance. Do more of those. If I do things where I encounter resistance, I immediately ask myself the question, is this good resistance or bad resistance? Good resistance means, oof, this feels right. I'm getting really positive emotions, but I'm also nervous, scared, uncertain. I don't know. It seems hard, but there's a part of me that says, you got to do that. Great, push through, do it. The other kind of resistance is literally life saying, nah, that's not really in your flow. That's going off the cool, smooth, easy road and getting into the boulders and the trash and the ditch and the weeds by the side of the road. You can do that if you want, but it's going to be hard. And that's when things happen, like you push for something, like you want this job so bad. Oh my God, I really want this job. Oh, I want it so bad, so bad, so bad. You don't get the job and you think, oh, what's wrong? Life doesn't want to support me. It should have given me that. No, life actually just kept you away from something. I always say it's like, when you go bowling as a kid and they put up the little kid rails on the side of the bowling thing. You hit those rails, you hit those, I'm sure it doesn't feel good to the bowling ball when it hits the little side things. But the point is, it's keeping you from doing something that you shouldn't be doing. A lot of times, though, we don't listen to those. We just keep right on rolling. We say, resistance is important and work harder and, no pain, no gain. And I'm like, if you want to believe that, you can make that. Go for it. Well, so this is a nutshell world of flow dreaming here. I know I'm going everywhere now.
Well, what you just said, though, in terms of the resistance piece and, life, I didn't get that job and then we just keep working. Again, coming back to the idea that, again, I want you to stop and say the only reason I want what I want is because I think I'll feel better when I get it. And if it's not through this, then it's because I'm not feeling it. I'm giving my power away to the external circumstances to get the feeling. And I'm the only one that can create the feeling. The external circumstances cannot create that feeling. I might think they do, and it does because of what happens when I get that thing that I want. But that's the basis to me of law of attraction, is the reverse of that, is recognizing that in order to get what I want and anything that I need that's in a higher expression, something that maybe I couldn't even visualize, but is better and bigger than I even imagined, in order for life to hand that to me or for me to be in a place to receive that, it's about getting into the feeling, which is, again, that emotional endpoint that you talked of. I really like that word. I used the word endpoint at some point in over the course of these podcasts. And one of my clients had reflected it back to me as a powerful statement. I said, fear is not an endpoint. So because people will say, well, if I'm afraid, it means I should stop. And I said, no, that is not what that means.
Exactly.
But so I've used the word endpoint in that phrase, but I like the use of it here in emotional endpoint to just get clear about, rather than all the efforting and all of the doing and all of the worrying and all of the, work that has to get done, that you think, I'm working so hard to get this blank, this thing, this person, this money. Well, why? What's the emotional endpoint? Because I want to feel joy. Well, feel joy now. Feel joy now and figure out how to do that. And I love that you offer Flowdreaming as a way to do that. So yeah, I was going to ask you where to send people. Which it sounds like you've already said. Go to the podcast, Flowdreaming, still kind of woo-woo, and to your website, and which will be also in the show notes. So anyone who's listening can click down and see go to the website. And again, it sounds like you have all kinds of goodies that people can get involved with if they want to take this further and definitely experience the Flowdreaming and learn to practice it, which of course will do nothing but up level your manifestations of the things that you want, of course, because manifesting is all of the time. You don't ever turn it off, and it's everything that's coming into your life. But we're talking about the ones that you want, the positive things. So is there any other place that you want me to send them?
You know what? Flowdreaming.com is definitely the best place. I do have a YouTube channel where I have a free tutorial on how to flow dream. I teach the practice for free. All the other things that I make are just taking people into deeper layers or levels of it. Or I've got about 200 some flow dreams that people can browse through. Again, not meditations. Do not close your mind and quiet yourself. When you flow dream, you are engaged. It's a bubble bath. You are feeling, you are exploring, you are expanding. So they're a little different. My flow dreams are not quiet and they don't lull you. I'm actually creating urgency in them. You'll hear it in my voice. You'll hear my own emotion. I want to sweep you like a dance partner on the floor. So that's kind of what makes them unique as a practice. And that reminds me one more thing. As a practice, I really appreciate things like, well, say yoga. If I do yoga every day, if I go to the gym every day, my muscles get stronger and more supple. They have to be affected by the constant practice. When I practice flow dreaming, I am energetically and emotionally getting stronger, getting more expansive. You can't do something every day, add that into your energy every day without changing. So one thing I love about it is it's almost like a guarantee. Like, you will be different. I mean, like, you don't have to worry about it or wonder if it'll happen or wonder if the aha will happen. Like, you just do this and you change. So that's another thing that I think is pretty awesome. So I encourage people go to YouTube, look up Flowdreaming and Summer McStravick. I should be just easy to find. I think I'm the only Summer McStravick in the world at this point.
Well, everyone can find it in the show notes. I will have links to all of it. So please make sure to check it out. Do it. Let's talk about it. Let's celebrate the manifestations that happen and the practice. And I'm looking forward to trying it myself. Summer, this was awesome. And I love the golden nuggets that you gave me. I always love talking about law of attraction. And when someone can help me see something different and to use it differently, well, I definitely appreciate that. So thank you for the very high level manifestation conversation today.
Woohoo! Well, I hope everybody else enjoyed it too. I try to make it as simple as possible with all my crazy imagery. Sometimes it works and people get really fired up and they're like, ha, I want to do this. Oh, there's a new way. So thank you so much for having me on. Great questions, great conversation.